by Yusuf Ali. Basic Principles of Understanding the Quran by Maududi. The Life of Prophet Muhammad by A.H. Siddiqui, or another version by Martin Ling. Islam in Focus by Abdul Atlati. The Islamic Way of Life by Maududi. The Bible, the Quran and Science by Maurice Bucaille. And Selections from Hadith by A.H. Siddiqui. The concept of worship in Islam. The concept of worship in Islam is misunderstood by many people, including some Muslims. Worship is commonly taken to mean performing ritualistic acts such as prayers, fasting, charity, etc. This limited understanding of worship is only one part of the meaning of worship in Islam. That is why the traditional definition of worship in Islam is a comprehensive definition that includes almost everything in any individual's activities. The definition goes something like this. Worship is an all-inclusive term for all that God loves of external and internal sayings and actions of a person. In other words, worship is everything one says or does for the pleasure of Allah. This, of course, includes rituals as well as beliefs, social activities and personal contributions to the welfare of one's fellow human beings. Islam looks at the individual as a whole. He is required to submit himself completely to Allah, as the Quran instructs the Prophet Muhammad to do. Say, O Muhammad, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death belong to Allah. He has no partner, and I am ordered to be among those who submit, i.e. Muslims. The natural result of this submission is that all one's activities should conform to the instructions of the one to whom the person is submitting. Islam, being a way of life, requires that its followers model their life according to its teachings in every aspect, religious or otherwise. This might sound strange to some people who think of religion as a personal relation between the individual and God, having no impact on one's activities outside rituals. As a matter of fact, Islam does not think much of mere rituals when they're performed mechanically and have no influence on one's inner life. The Quran addresses the believers and their neighbors from among the people of the book who are arguing them about the change of the direction of the Qibla in the following verse. It is not righteousness that you turn your faces toward the east or the west, but righteous is he who believes in Allah and the last day and the angels and the book and the prophets, and gives his beloved money to the relatives and the orphans and the needy, and for the ransoming of the captives, and who observes prayer and pays the poor Jew, and those who fulfill their promises when they have made one, and the patient in poverty and affliction, and the steadfast in time of war. It is those who have proved truthful, and it is those who are the God-fearing. This is from the Holy Quran, 2nd chapter, verse 177. The deeds in this verse are the deeds of righteousness, and they are only a part of worship. The Prophet told us about faith, which is the basis of worship, that it is made up of 60 and some branches, the highest of which is the belief in the oneness of Allah. That is, there is no God but Allah, and the lowest in the scale of worship is removing obstacles and dirt from people's way. Decent work is considered in Islam a type of worship. The Prophet said, whoever finds himself at the nightfall tired of his work, God will forgive his sins. Seeking knowledge is one of the highest types of worship. The Prophet told his companions that seeking knowledge is a religious duty on every Muslim. And another saying, he said, seeking knowledge for 1 hour is better than praying for 70 years. Social courtesy and cooperation are part of worship when done for the sake of Allah, as the Prophet told us. Receiving your friend with a smile is a type of charity. Helping a person to load his animal is a charity. And putting some water in your neighbor's bucket is a charity. It is worth noting that even performing one's duties is considered a sort of worship. The Prophet told us that whatever one spends for his family is a type of charity. He will be rewarded for it if he acquires it through legal means. Kindness to the members of one's family is an act of worship, as when one puts a piece of food in his spouse's mouth, as the Prophet informed us. Not only this, but even the acts we enjoy doing very much, when they are performed according to the instructions of the Prophet, they are considered as acts of worship. The Prophet told his companions that they would be rewarded even for having sexual intercourse with their wives. The companions were astonished and asked, how are we going to be rewarded for doing something we enjoy very much? The Prophet asked them, suppose you satisfy your desires illegally, don't you think that you will be punished for that? They replied, yes. So he said, by satisfying it legally with your wives, you are rewarded for it. This means they are acts of worship. Thus Islam does not consider sex a dirty thing that one should avoid. It is dirty and a sin only when it is satisfied outside marital life. It is clear from the previous discussion that the concept of worship in Islam is a comprehensive concept that includes all the positive activities of the individual. This, of course, is an agreement with the all-inclusive nature of Islam as a way of life. It regulates the human life on all levels, the individual, the social, the economic, the political, and the spiritual. That is why Islam provides guidance to the smallest details of one's life on all these levels. Those following these details is following Islamic instructions in that specific area. It is a very encouraging element when one realizes that all his activities are considered by God as acts of worship. This should lead the individual to seek Allah's pleasure in his actions and always try to do them in the best possible manner. Whether he is watched by his superiors or he is alone, there is always the permanent supervisor who knows everything, namely Allah.
The first side of the tape is over. Please turn to the second.
Discussing the non-ritual worship in Islam first does not mean under-evaluating the importance of the ritual ones. Actually, ritual worships, if performed in true spirit, elevate man morally and spiritually and enable him to carry on his activities in all walks of life according to the guidance of God. Among ritual worships, Salah, the ritual prayer, occupies the key position for two reasons. Firstly, it is a distinctive mark of a believer. Secondly, it prevents an individual from all sorts of abominations and vices by providing him chances of direct communication with his Creator 5 times a day, wherein he renews his covenant with God and seeks his guidance again and again. You alone we worship, and to you alone we turn for help. Guide us to the straight path. This is the first chapter in the Holy Quran, verses 4 and 5. Actually, Salah is the first practical manifestation of faith, and also the foremost of the basic conditions for the success of the believers. Successful indeed are the believers who are humble in their prayers. This is chapter 23, the first 2 verses. The same fact has been emphasized by the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in a different way. He says, those who offer their salah with great care and punctuality will find it a light, a proof of their faith, and cause of their salvation on the day of judgment. After salah, zakah, the charity, is an important pillar in Islam. In the Quran, salah and zakat mostly have been mentioned together. Like salah, zakah is a manifestation of faith that affirms that God is the sole owner of everything in the universe, and what men hold is a trust in their hand over which God made them trustees to discharge it as He has laid down. Believe in Allah and His Messenger and spend over that which He made you trustees. This is in the Holy Quran, chapter 57, verse 7. In this respect, zakah is an act of devotion, which, like prayer, brings the believer nearer to his Lord. Apart from this, zakah is a means of redistribution of wealth in a way that reduces differences between classes and groups. It makes a fair contribution to social stability by purging the soul of the rich from selfishness and the soul of the poor from envy and resentment against society. It stops the channels leading to class hatred and makes it possible for the springs of brotherhood and solidarity to gush forth. Such stability is not only based on the personal feelings of the rich, it stands on a firmly established right which, if the rich denied it, would be exacted by force if necessary. Siyam, fasting during the daytime of the month of Ramadan, is another pillar of Islam. The main function of fasting is to make the Muslim pure from within, as other aspects of Sharia make him pure from without. By such purity, he responds to what is true and good and shuns what is false and evil. That is what we can perceive in the Quranic verse. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed